Oregon's economic vitality is dependent on the health of the Pacific Ocean and the lower Columbia River estuary. We're very vulnerable to the effects of climate change, especially ocean and coastal acidification. As co-chair of the House Oceans Caucus, I know that the health of our natural resources and marine resources is critical, and I'm advocating for investments in research to predict and adapt to these challenges. I recently reintroduced the Bipartisan Coastal and Ocean Acidification Stressors and Threats, or COAST Research Act, with Representative Young, also the other co-chair of the Oceans Caucus, Representative Pingree and Representative Posey, to expand the scientific research and monitoring to improve our understanding of ocean and coastal acidification. The bill would improve research on ocean and coastal acidification in the context of environmental stressors, assess adaptation and mitigation strategies, and designate NOAA as the lead federal agency responsible for implementing the federal response. Additionally, the bill would increase our understanding of the socioeconomic effects of ocean acidification and coastal acidification in estuaries. It would engage stakeholders, including the commercial fishing industry, researchers, and community leaders through an advisory board, and provide for the long-term stewardship and standardization of data on ocean acidification from different sources, including the National Centers for Environmental Information and the Integrated Ocean Observing System. These efforts will help identify risks and inform vulnerable communities, industries, and coastal and ocean managers on how they can best prepare and, when possible, adapt to changing conditions. Dr. Cooley, I appreciate in your written testimony you discuss some of the research gaps. Thank you for that. You also discuss how the fundamental solution to ocean warming, acidification, and oxygen loss is to decrease greenhouse gas emissions, emphasizing the connection between ocean acidification and greenhouse gas emissions. And I think we heard that from everybody on the panel today. How do you, Dr. Cooley, how do human-caused greenhouse gas emissions change seasonal upwelling when the winds cause nutrient-rich, deeper water to rise from below, especially on the Pacific coast?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman, and thank you for your leadership on introducing the COAST Act. The action of atmospheric warming tends to change or enhance upwelling favorable winds. Winds that come from a certain direction along a coastline will drive upwelling naturally, and that can be enhanced when those winds become stronger. And that allows deeper waters to move up along the coast and reach coastal resources and fisheries decades sooner than they would be expected to. So in the Pacific Northwest, as Ms. Pallaro highlighted, shellfish growers were experiencing waters that upwelled 50 to 100 years earlier than expected, and they were carrying water that had an extra enhanced amount of carbon dioxide in it from being exposed to the atmosphere this century.
Thank you. I want to get two more questions in. Dr. Cooley and Dr. Horton, how can Congress best support adaptation and mitigation strategies to address these socioeconomic effects? And if you could answer briefly, because I really want to get in a question from Ms. Pallaro.
I think probably the most important piece is to support structures that involve multiple stakeholders and set a collective vision.
Great. Dr. Horton.
I would agree with that. Vulnerable communities, just to give one example, when we think about the combination of high temperature and high humidity, that's going to affect the elderly, those with pre-existing health conditions. It's not one size fits all. We need science to help us understand how different communities differ in their vulnerability and in the adaptation strategies that make the most sense for them, because ultimately these are about long-term decisions that are good for all of society.
And Ms. Pallaro, at Oregon State University, Dr. Burke Hales developed the Burkolator, a device the size of a piece of carry-on luggage that can analyze when the shellfish growers across the Pacific Northwest should grow larvae based on the acidity and effects of calcium carbonates needed for the shell formation. As you discuss in your testimony, the shellfish hatcheries, especially Whiskey Creek shellfish in my home state of Oregon, have been on the front lines of responding. Why are federal investments in tools like the Burkolator and the data from the Integrated Ocean Observing System necessary for our fishers and the shellfish industry?
It's critically necessary because some of these impacts are happening regardless of where shellfish farming happens and where hatcheries are. So it's not bound by a state, it's not bound by a region. And so having that federal commitment and input is vitally important. We don't want to be in a situation where a private entity builds something and then has it to themselves and keeps it. It would be helpful to have something that all of the folks who are interested in harvesting from the sea, whether it's kelp or shellfish or anything else, any other fisheries resource, can gain access to that information and that
Thank you.
technology.
Thank you. And